Okay? So I'm going to talk about the tidal wave with generative AI. How did we get here? The current tidal wave is due to confluence of three factors. Transformer architecture, something called self-supervised learning, and just scale. And as you can see here, right, the scale of these models has been steadily increasing over the past few years. And every time the scale of these models increases by a factor of 10, we have seen what is called emergent behavior. When these models had 8 billion parameters, they started answering questions. When they became 62 billion parameters, they started summarizing information and translating information. When they got to 540 billion parameters, they started completing code and generating code. And we expect these emergent behavior to keep increasing as these model size increase. And this has led to a plethora of surprising applications. GitHub Copilot, for example, provides an experience where, as I sit and edit in the editor, depending on where my cursor is, the agent looks at my context and suggests the line that I'm currently typing and completes it. And in many cases, actually, it completes the entire method. And I personally use it, and the accuracy of it is stunning. Similar copilots are now built for search, for productivity, and in every vertical. And this is crossing true democratization of AI. But this area is not without challenges. And I've written three main challenges here. The first one is that the current understanding of our foundational models is not very mathematical. It's very empirical. So we don't clearly mathematically understand what these things are exactly doing. The second factor is that these foundation models are expensive to train and use. And this is an important factor for equity, which is a very important, which is a topic of discussion. We should really think about what it takes to make these accessible to everyone. The third one is that while these are flexible, because we don't understand them, in addition to that, they are unpredictable. And because they're unpredictable, we need responsible AI guardrails to make sure that these do what we want them to do. So what can we do? I mean, here we are. We have this amazing technology. We have those challenges. What can we do as a community? I think there are three opportunities which I will talk about next. The first opportunity, and I'm talking about this as a country and our community, is that we can strive to understand these things better. And that requires intellectual capital. The science behind these is still underdeveloped. And this country has a really good heritage in math, and we can invest in actually what it takes to understand these things. I mean, I've just said three papers here. The first one is from my colleagues in Redmond. The second one is from MIT. The one here with Naveen Goyal is a colleague of mine in collaboration. So these things are trying to understand what these transformers are actually doing. And there is huge value in doing that. There is also value in, like what Vivek was saying, we could build foundation models ourselves, but that will require huge amounts of investment. And we should think over like a 10-year horizon if you want to do something like that. The second thing we can do to ride the generative wave is to build surfboards. What do I mean by that? Right? The wave is already there, but to build applications in any domain, you need surrounding infrastructure, such as there's something called LangChain, which is now an open source toolkit. It helps you compositionally do multiple invocations to a foundation model. Depending on whatever domain you're working on, you will have private data associated with that domain. The state of the art on how to make the private data accessible to the foundation model is by building something called a vector index. You encode that information as vectors and build an index for it. There's an open source index called Llama Index or GPT Index that is quite popular. People from our lab have built a hyperscale index called DiskANN, which is also open sourced. So these kinds of interfaces are needed to interface your private data together with a foundation model. The third thing you need is that you need to equip a foundation model to invoke into other skills. And for that, you need something called plugins. So all of these things are these surfboards. The third thing you could do is actually you can now get on top of the surfboard and surf. And, which is, depending on whatever domain you're interested in, be it fintech, manufacturing, health, you can actually build true applications using this technology. And when you do that, there's two things I would say. One of them is that new experiences are going to likely win over bolting on existing experience. But if you have an existing app and you just add AI to it, it's going to be less successful than if you reimagine the experience. And one of the most exciting reasons why I came here was that by putting people at the center, thinking about these as people-centric thinking, we can do much more as well. So I will actually conclude by saying, in addition to the opportunity, we have responsibilities as well. I mentioned equitable access and safety a few times, and it's equally important to think about fairness, privacy, and transparency as well. I'll conclude with that. Thank you.